In today's small business segment, I'd like to talk about taking into account important tax issues. Now, most people, when they set up the business, they're kind of gung ho about just starting the business. But, along the vein of doing so is that, after you get to making money, it's really the taxes are ultimately where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, in terms of what you actually pay to the government, so they get their fair share. Now, in one of the most important parts is setting up the legal entity. So how are you going to set it up? According to the state of whatever state you're in, but also with the IRS, because that could determine how much you ultimately pay in taxes. Now, for the most part, there's a couple of ones. There's sole proprietor, there's S corp, there's partnership, and there's C corporation. Now, there's smaller offshoots of those, but those are kind of just the basics ones, just so we can keep it real simple. But so, and some of these are something called flow through. Now, what that means is that you don't pay at the business level; you just pay at the personal level. So you get the income from, let's just say, an S corp or a partnership, and it flows through from the business to the personal, and that's where you pay your taxes. Now, depending on how it's structured, you could pay more, you could pay less. Now, just to kind of give you a brief overview, so a sole proprietor is usually for small companies. If you just have a popcorn shop or whatever, and you're just kind of making a couple bucks here and there, and then an S corporation, S corp stands for small corporation. That's usually when you're kind of stepping things up a little bit and you're getting a little more serious. Usually, it's more beneficial around $35,000 to $40,000 when you start making that in revenue. And then there's a partnership. That's usually when you have two or more people in the business, and it's usually pretty flexible as far as how money is contributed, how money is distributed, and some other basic things that I kind of don't want to get too heavy into taxes. And then there's a C corporation. It's just for a big corporation. Those are usually for big companies where you're making lots of money and you kind of want to lessen the taxes. That is not a flow through. That is a separate entity. So with a partnership, you pay taxes, or sorry, with a corporation, a C corp, you pay taxes on the business level, and then on the personal level. But definitely talk to a tax professional. There's little nuances beyond that, but that's just the basics, just kind of get you the door. But also, one of the other tax issues is sales tax. Sales tax, of course, you collect it, and then usually whatever interval, most times it's at the end of the month, you hold on to it, and then you turn around and you pay it. Now, that is you're basically holding money for the government. A good piece of advice, just pay the government. Don't try to do anything funny with that. That's a sales tax. Let's just say you sell, cereal boxes or whatever. I'm just using that as an example. Of course, there's the item fee, and then there's a little percentage when you get the receipt that you pay on top of that. And then also payroll tax. Payroll tax is that there's Social Security, there's Medicare, and then there's FICA, and then there might be some state taxes, whatever state you're in. That's one of those things as well. Just seriously, I've seen so many people try to game the system. Don't. With the sales tax and payroll tax, just pay it. Go to the IRS, EFTPS, and just seriously, you mess around with that, the government will come after you. And so, yeah, just pay that. Next, which is still out there, but for some bigger businesses, there's something called Section 83B, and this is whether you can you can actually do this on your taxes as far as the election. It's related to receiving stock or options in regards to vesting. It's usually for bigger companies or companies that have a sophisticated tax structure. This is one of those things you want to talk to your tax person. As well, stock options. Talk to your tax person as far as bigger companies. They incentivize people. If you hit your numbers or the stock goes a certain price, you can exercise those options. It's a way to incentivize upper level management. Also, there's qualified business stock. That's one thing as well. You can small business corporations, you can reduce your tax on gain to sale, qualified small business stocks, and also tax incentives as far as, renewable energy credits, investment credits, things like that. Your tax person, they're here to help you. So, and I always tell people taxes don't happen at the end of the year. It happens every time you make a transaction. So every time you go to the grocery store, every time you go to Office Depot, every time you go to get more of your product, that's a taxable event. And what I recommend for people is to keep in touch with your tax or financial person. Believe it or not, they're here to help you. They're here to make your life better. And if they can do that in any way, shape, or form, if you have a quick question, I'm sure they'll answer. They're not going to nickel and dime you on fees, because and also, I always tell people to do that. So at the end of the year, your taxes are just a cakewalk. It's super easy to do. You just hand over your information. Here you go. We're done. Just input the numbers and that's it. In my business, what happens is some people do that, which is awesome. And then there's some people that I contact them throughout the year and they just avoid me. And that's not good. Because, if I have a question regarding a transaction you did in that month, most likely you'll remember it. But if you call me at the end of the year and you say, hey, do the entire bookkeeping, and I know you're gonna have questions, but and then what happens is people end up forgetting. Well, I don't remember that transaction from 8 or 9 months ago when I'm doing the bookkeeping to get the taxes. So keep in touch with them. At least, hey, is everything good as far as my bookkeeping? It doesn't have to be a long, drawn conversation. It doesn't have to be anything formal. No meetings. Just, hey, is everything good on my bookkeeping? Any questions, concerns, comments? Whether it be the bookkeeper or financial person contacting the business or vice versa, people love to succeed, and it's a team effort, and just kind of know that. As far as the business goes. But just a little bit about me. Myself and my partner, we have a bookkeeping business over there, metrobookkeeping.com, www.metroacc.com. We've been fairly around as far as in taxation issues for small to medium-sized businesses. But so if you like us, if you love us, you want some more of us, click like and subscribe. And until next time.